December CPI was 6.5% increase over last year. The market was pricing in a 6.2%, or at least expecting number for January. We got 6.4%, which is an improvement over December, but worse than the expectation, which means that markets have to be volatile, bounce up and down, and go absolutely nuts for no apparent reason, especially since they basically just admitted that they've decided to calculate CPI in a different manner this month, as they like to do, to tweak it. So it's not the same calculation as before, but we still react to what we think might happen versus what actually happens. It's a scam. But we're going to discuss this and how to actually trade this market right now, because it is, after all, Trader Tuesday. And I have my mentor, Chris Inks of Texas West Capital. You guys obviously don't want to miss this one.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of Wall Street. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and drop the rocks people's elbow on the like button and smash your keyboard to smithereens. As I said, everybody holding their breath today an hour ago to see what the CPI numbers would be, and they came in, and now who cares? We'll forget about it tomorrow, because I'm sure that the Fed will have some sort of announcement. One of their 400 governors will make one of their 700 statements, and then we'll look to next month and Jerome Powell and PPI and all of the other three-letter things that apparently we react to on a daily basis. If you were watching, Bitcoin went down about $300 in the first minute after CPI was announced, and then immediately in the same 10-minute period came right back to the same price, and now trading about $200 lower. Some volatility in the short term, but no major move here at all. Also important to remember that often the first reaction by the market is the wrong one. We often see that there's quickly volatility in one direction, and then a day later or even later in the session, the market goes completely the other way. Before we get started, guys, Prime XBT. A lot of you guys got some free money last week, which was awesome. On Wednesday, we talked to Dirk. I don't think he's going to be here tomorrow, actually. I think he's on holiday, but we will persist. Now it's time to bring on Christopher Inks, the man with the Texas Tech, how do I blank on the name of the game now, which I play all the time? Cornhole behind him, which I love. I have Gator cornhole in my garage right now.
I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm kidding.
That's cool. I like the cornhole. I literally blanked. I was like, the beanbag game with the beanbag toss. How's everything going over there?
What was that?
How's everything going over there?
Oh man, it's good. It's good. I mean, just everything market-wise, just kind of doing what we've been expecting. I mean, it seems like every 0.5% or 0.25% pullback, all the bears jump out of the woodwork and whatnot. So, it seems a lot like what we just normally would expect, on this type of rally after such a long, bear market running there. But in terms of, historical movements, it's just the same thing. It's about a year and whatever long for the bear market, and then everybody's in disbelief as it continues to rally. So
you want to share some charts and we can take a look at it?
Yeah.
Go down to present there. I don't see your screen pulled up, but
Oops,
hit present at the bottom, share your window. So you think the bottom's in, bottom line?
I think it's got a pretty good chance that it is there.
I concur. But I think everybody here knows my thoughts by now. Interestingly, I'm going to pull up the chart right now, just to your point about the bear markets and the cycles. You could just look at the 4-year cycle with the Bitcoin halvings right here, and it couldn't be more obvious. In fact, we've had a longer bear cycle, I would say, because of the FTX saga. You would have had this third bottom right here when it went oversold on the weekly. But the good news is then, which would have been, instead of 917 days, would have been 770 days. The past ones were 777 and 889, right? And that would have been the bottom. But FTX, it gave us a bullish divergence on the weekly, which showed that was sort of I'll call it a fake bottom, a fake move, right? We would have bottomed. We got a black swan event. It gave us a catalyst. And 2 months later, we were back at the same prices. But for me, I don't see anything dramatic here other than a continued cycle, even with all the noise and nonsense. I'm going to add your charts now.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, again, basically this is what we've been watching. If you're looking for analogs, this was the 2018 bear here and the 2019 rally, and following it pretty good here. As far as all that goes, which would give us this last final move up, this fifth wave up right into the weekly pivot, and then we'd expect to pull back down toward around these current levels, and then just to break out higher. I mean, there's like you said, there's nothing really going on here that that says to me, oh my God, we got to be worried. Now, I mean, people are going to watch it and they're going to go, oh my gosh, that means,
I know
that
no,
if it goes down, they'll be like, oh, it's going to go down, and then it can, nobody knows for sure. At the end of the day, nobody knows for sure. Nobody can guarantee you what's going to happen. But right now it looks a lot like accumulation over here. Is what I've been talking about since that June 6th or that June 18th low there.
Right.
This last FTX thing. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, man. I mean, again, it's that big news that comes in, arguably, worse than the capitulation over here with Three Arrows Capital and over here with Voyager and all that. And yet the decline was really small comparatively, even on that big volume coming in. This is the BLX chart here, but so terminal shakeout. There's your range, right back up into the range and headed up, and everybody's screaming manipulation here. I think they were probably screaming the same thing over here. So I mean, there's really nothing going on there that at the moment anyway suggests that we have to be worried all of a sudden about some new lows coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. And so, I mean, if you had to guess, we get a push up, then a pullback, and then basically we continue on through the next halving, and that's it, right? We enter a new market. People should know, though, that means we're not talking about a matter of weeks or months. Right. Like, this process could take a while.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at it, I mean, just counting waves, I mean, that's 1, 2, that's 3. We're on 4 here. One more wave up gives us 5. And so if we're getting 5 up, it suggests 3 more back and then 5 higher at least. But that takes us above the weekly pivot. And if we're getting above the weekly pivot, if we do that impulsively, we should just kind of continue up toward that R1 pivot, pull back to the pivot, and then continue up. So, I mean, again, everything kind of, unless we don't break out higher, everything's lined up, to continue that move all the way up to new all-time highs.
What are your thoughts on the old weekly death cross conflicting with the old daily golden cross?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much in terms, you might remember, I'm not much of a concern about, death crosses and whatnot. Look, here's the thing. For people that don't understand, why are we getting this now? Because we had all this over here sideways and then finally we're coming down. So we've been coming down for a year. And
it's a massively lagging indicator.
What already happened.
Yeah. I mean, MAs move because of what happened in the past, not because of what they're predicting for the future.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not overly concerned about it. The thing is, if it does happen, people go, oh yeah, it was because of that. But people often conflate, just the fact that something happened with something they thought would make it happen. And that's a big problem that we run into, in trading and whatnot.
If we think that the Bitcoin bottom is likely in, are you thinking that bottom is likely in for stocks as well? I mean, do you think that we kind of maintain the correlation there, or do you think it's possible that stocks could go down and Bitcoin bottom could actually be in and they could detach?
Well, I mean, anything's possible, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's all kind of, we're watching the dollar. Not that the dollar makes things happen, but the dollar's kind of like that canary in the coal mine thing. It kind of lets you know what's likely happening with risk in the markets. And so, if the dollar continues to drop as expected overall, I mean, I think it's probably topped out there 114, 115.
Yeah. You and I were both calling that at the time, by the way. Both of us were pretty loudly that just, saying that it was the top of the channel.
That just takes all that downward price pressure off risk assets. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately across these markets, man, I'm looking at this mid-August swing high, right? So we've got this bearish market structure coming down off the all-time high. This is the last higher or lower high. Is that mid-August swing high there. So if we're just about there. If we break out above that, that breaks that bearish market structure off that all-time high. That's also the same point at which if you break above it, the Dow's already done it. The NASDAQ and the S&P are just, on their way to do it. But if you're breaking out above that, that locks in like a 3-wave movement down. And so, again, 3 waves are corrective. Looking at a new all-time high more likely than not. So, I think Bitcoin's going up. Stocks are probably going up as well.
Yeah, for me, that's 25.
Not because of each other, but just because they're both risk off assets.
Yeah, I have that at 25.12. I've been talking about the whole time. This is the bear market, right? Lower highs, lower lows, and then we got to get back above this high, which is 25.12. Exactly. And then that pretty much ends the bear case, right? I mean, that doesn't mean price can't go down, but you can't say that it's a bearish market structure anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's your high time frame. I think it's as high time frame as you get on that at that point. You go any higher than that, and we're just in a short pullback on the multi-year rally. So
yeah. Let's take a look at the dollar. Since you mentioned it before, I think the dollar looks absolutely cooked here. I think we're just getting a simple retest of support as resistance before we likely head down with a potential head and shoulders, obviously, which is a kind of a strange one, but we can't call it that yet unless you get.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Again, I'm looking for probably getting down there to around that 93, 94 handle. That's at weekly S1.
I'll bring yours up if you want. If you have a DXY chart.
Let me pull it up here real quick.
So you don't have to talk over mine.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean, so here we are. Ultimately, kind of what I'm looking at here. We had this high back over here on the February 7th last week. Basically routed up to the weekly pivot. Here's the thing: if you zoom out to that weekly pivot, though, or that weekly time frame, this is a huge rejection right here.
That's what I was showing. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a ton of supply sitting in there. So again, looking for that rejection in this area, even if it pushes up higher, and just kind of looking to get down here to this S1 pivot before we get a real kind of reaction, maybe up here toward this area here, and then just continue down lower. I don't see anything going on at the moment right now. If you look at something like global liquidity right now, we know that the China and Japan have been pumping in tons of liquidity into the markets, into the global markets, right? And so it's just the U.S. and its counterparts over here that aren't yet, that are still tightening. But I mean, again, as you mentioned, CPI, it was higher this morning than what was expected, but overall it's still down. It was 0.1% lower than last month. Core CPI came in as expected, 0.4. So, I mean, services are still strong. That's kind of the sticky point right now. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Fed's, nearing done here. And since markets are forward looking, the markets are kind of saying, okay, yeah, maybe we get 5, maybe we get 5.25, but I think that's probably it. And we're coming back down. So the markets are pricing that all in. And I think
we're at the tail end. We're at the tail end of the tightening cycle, regardless.
Exactly. So, when the Fed says we're not going to do something, or we are going to do something, usually they don't, or they do, usually it's the opposite of what they're saying. So,
yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how bad the somewhat inevitable recession is, depending on how far they overshoot, because I think we already know that they've overshot, right? I mean, the Fed's literally never been right with their timing in history. They always loosen and tighten way too much and overreact, to your point, because it takes 6 months to price in the hikes that have already happened.
Exactly. And they're always working on lagging data. So, but I think even Powell, recognizes that. Recently he was talking about it, mentioning, last couple of times, mentioning that we had to wait to kind of, maybe we need to be careful because we haven't understood the effects yet of what they've already done. So
let's operate on the assumption that the bottom could be in. So how does that mean we should approach this market for trades? Are we looking for that next dip to buy? Are we looking for the break above 25.12 on Bitcoin? And then after we talk about that, let's talk about ETH and altcoins, because I know you have some thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, man. I mean, obviously, if you're really concerned about it, look for the pullback. After the breakout, they're above that 25 level, right?
Yeah.
But again, I think we get rejected around this weekly pivot, and then we pull back to about where we are right now. So, if you're looking to still buy, that would be my game plan. The only thing that becomes something is, if we jump out here to the daily, I think basically if we really kind of lose this daily S1, I think then you kind of look like, okay, maybe we're probably, gonna continue down. I think, but until then, I don't see any reason why you do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the daily for me, and I've got it on the weekly as well, this red line, 21,473. I mean, it continues to hold, and it was the high of that entire pre-FTX cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's
Exactly.
before the FTX
Dropped it and
drop.
came up.
All this news is noise to me. We're still holding above that. Of course, we did have the bearish divergence, overbought. But what I actually found interesting, and something I remember you kind of teaching me that's bullish, is that we had this massive drop in RSI, right? We were at 90, had bearish divergence, made it basically all the way down to 58 with price not even going down.
Yeah.
Of course, we had the drop a couple days ago and that reset it down to about 50. But we usually on a daily chart, if you're going to see RSI dropping 30, 40 points, that means that price dropped massively. And that didn't happen at all. We got basically a reset on indicators without price dropping.
Yeah, exactly. And usually when you see that, it means that we're just resetting, ready to continue pushing in the usual direction there in the trend. For sure.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So, I mean, right now, I think as long as we hold 21,473, I mean, now the daily candle is green right now.
Yeah. Yep. You get the knee-jerk reaction. You get those knee-jerk reactions, and if you're trading and you haven't noticed that yet, I mean, that's been for months now. You're going to get the knee-jerk reaction no matter what the news is, no matter what the news release, the CPI, whatever it is, and then things kind of continue on.
Yeah, we're about to break back above 22. It's 21,993 right now. I mean, this is almost going to be the high after the dump if it gets above 22.90. So, I mean, there's nothing bearish happening right now at all, in my opinion. So, what are you looking at then on
there? We should just rally right through it.
Yeah. What are you looking at then for altcoins and anything you're watching? I know you have some sort of larger time frame ideas on Bitcoin pairs, which is refreshing because nobody talks about Bitcoin pairs anymore.
Right? We used to
talk. We used to trade, man. Oh, 22,008. Yeah. I mean, this thing is, it's pushing hard right now. Look, just real quick. It's about to break that. It broke that high.
Oh, look at that. Yep.
Now working on retracing that big candle.
I like that. Yeah. So, I mean, I think Litecoin's the one. I've been talking about Litecoin now since October, when we were down around 50 or so. And I was talking about 100 back then. We've done that. That was the USD pair, of course. And so here we are with Litecoin against Bitcoin here. And we've got this nice impulsive breakout above that, this descending channel resistance here. And it looks like we're basically just doing a triangle here right on the weekly pivot, which may be done or just about so. And so that gives us then this target up here of about 0.005854 kind of area at least. But once we get that, again, like Bitcoin, once you get that rally up toward that R1 pivot on the weekly, you should pull back around the weekly pivot and then just kind of continue up. So, I mean, to me, looks like there's a good chance that we're probably, bottomed way back over here in June of 22.
Yeah. I'm looking at the USD pair just for reference. And I guess I got to zoom out, but, you have this humongous forever range here on the weekly, right?
Yep.
And I mean, this just broke the EQ of that range, which was exactly resistance on all of these. So there's a red line there. I hadn't even looked. And now that's holding perfectly as support.
Yeah.
So you gotta think that this is going to, yes, it had massive bearish divergence, but now it also has massive hidden bullish divergence, which is very clear.
Right.
So that should be done.
Exactly.
Holding 50 on RSI.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at it there, you look at it here. I think it's I think it's good. I think it's what we're looking for. Again, usually when these bull markets get going, you have the USD pairs, of course, starting up, and then you have the alts will outperform Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's so liquid, it's so huge, it's made such big moves already. You can't get that same movement consistently. That huge movement. So everybody tries to find it in those alts, and those alts end up going up, exponentially compared to Bitcoin. So. Yeah, I think it's setting up pretty good here.
Are you actively trading these on the Bitcoin pair, or are you using them for reference and then trading it on the USD pair? I find it increasingly harder to find liquidity on Bitcoin pairs.
Yeah. No, man. Like I said, back in the day, years back, when you and I were working together there,
Bittrex.
It was always Bitcoin pairs, right? And now, it's just, and I mentioned, back then that we'd probably get in a few years up to the point where, we got more on-ramps with USD. Because at that time it was just Tether, right? And USD was difficult to get in. And so here we are, USD is easy to get in. And so, well, we'll see what the SEC has to say.
It might not be for the next, it might not be in a couple of weeks, but yeah.
Right. Well, so there's a great reason to, to look at these Bitcoin pairs here. But yeah, no, I'm not actively trading these at the moment. I'm watching them. I'll probably be interested either on a breakout here, or I might just wait till the pullback here. But I've gotten so used to the last few years now just trading USD pairs that I've got to kind of think about it for some reason.
Same. I can't pronounce his name. Flezik asked, tell us more of the Bittrex backstory, please. Well, when we started trading, I mean, I met Chris after I'd already started trading. Some of my friends who were in the DJ world with me were like, you got to buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, and then you send it to this place called Bittrex, and then you buy the Ethereums and the Ripples and the Litecoins, right? Everything was plural because we didn't know what the hell we were talking about. Me, personally, not you. And then, so you literally had to move it over to Bittrex. And if you were new to this market and had traded anything else before, the Bitcoin pair was like alien, right? Because you had no real way of calculating it. There was actually no way to chart USD and USDT pairs then. So you were only charting against Bitcoin, and then you had to consider the Bitcoin to USD conversion. And I'll never forget the meme back then. You would be like up in USD, down in Bitcoin.
Yep.
Because you would think that you were doing really great when your portfolio tracker told you were making money. And then you realize if you had just sat in Bitcoin and not touched alts at all, you'd be up way more. And you were just losing your Bitcoin over and over again. But yes, this is exactly, you used to send it to Bittrex, and then you used to trade on the Bitcoin pair. And then you had to kind of convert I don't know what your experience was at the beginning, but that was the only liquidity. You had to trade Bitcoin pairs.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, coming in, and it was Poloniex before old Sun got a hold of it. And, and then, of course, like I said, there was Bittrex. And, we just kind of cycled through these exchanges, which we've continued to do up until Binance, right? And then some people kind of did the FTX thing, but I don't think it's as pronounced as it was back then. Everybody was moving. It was like, everybody's moving instead of rotating through, or as they were rotating through coins, they were rotating through exchanges.
Oh, do you remember the Litecoin arbitrage?
Oh, man.
When you could I used to, it was Binance, I think, and Binance, Bittrex, and Coinbase in like the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, when there was massive volatility, would be priced 5% different every day for like a week. And all I used to do is buy on one exchange and sell on another exchange at the same time, move the coins around and do it again. And it was free money.
Did that with XTG too. Yeah. Remember that?
Free money.
It was so easy.
Unfortunately, those inefficiencies don't exist in the market anymore. So
that's right.
I mean, if you had a Korean account, people were doing it with the kimchi premium for like $3,000-$4,000 on Bitcoin on the Gap, which was just insane. Literally free money.
Yeah. It was so easy to do, and it was such a thing for a while. And as traders, we kind of take advantage of the situations as they are until they aren't anymore.
Yeah, this Bitcoin candle is it's growing. So what else do you got now after Litecoin?
Let's see here. We got our Ethereum, right? Everybody loves Ethereum, right? And so we've basically got this range right here, which looks like accumulation to me, based on price action and volume here. You've got this capitulation into a spring here with this really high volume. You've got a test of that coming out again, a much lower volume, which is what we want to see. You've got the show of strength up toward the end here. Looks like we're putting a little triangle in there, finishing off. And so looking for a rally up to around 0.113079 to kind of give us that fifth wave up. And then we'll look for a pullback from that. But I mean, right now it looks like we're just kind of finishing out this, kind of draw this on here, this range that we've kind of got here right there. And so, I mean, that's my range that I've been watching on this. If you look at it via Wyckoff, you get your buying climax, automatic reaction, you get this up thrust, which moves down. It starts out as distribution and then becomes accumulation. It's a reaccumulation here. So you get this spring, again, the test of the spring on much lower volume, which is what you want to see. Because then it just shows there's lack of selling. There was a ton of selling going in here. That's why you got so much volume. A ton of selling that just got here, left this large lower wick, rallied up, pulled back. You retest it, much less selling going on. So sellers are done. And then you see that rally back up. You're getting this consolidation right here on the upper half of the range here. And so you look for that breakout, hit up higher there, get you right here into the supply that's in this wick right here, right about mid-range, I believe. Let's see here, which is generally where I would expect it to get. So right there, yeah, just shy of that. So yeah, expect to hit up, pull back, and then continue up probably after that. So again, like Litecoin, just looking for one more push up, a pullback, and then continuation against Bitcoin, which is what we would expect, right? We expect alts to outperform.
Yeah, I mean, you can look right here. I've got the ETH USD and our favorite, right? Pull up the line chart. I showed it all over Bitcoin yesterday. I showed it in the newsletter today. I was not bearish going into CPI because this is bullish divergence on ETH oversold on the 6 hour. It's there on the 4 hour. On Bitcoin, it's there on the 12 hour, the 6 hour, the 4 hour, the 1 hour potentially. And, it rallied at the end of the day. So we didn't get it on the daily. But I mean, when you're oversold and get bullish divergence across the entire market, it would be, even if you get another push down, it usually just forms another bigger bullish divergence and then you rock it. But there was odds of a significant drop here to me were extremely low.
For sure. I mean,
I literally laid it out today as my newsletter right here, but I literally laid it out with the bullish divergences, that I'm not really worried about CPI. I talked about all the things that we're talking about. I mean, sometimes you just got to put all the nonsense out of the way and just look at the chart, right?
Well, man, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people that get on there and they want to talk about fundamentals. Most people aren't. Let's be honest. When we're talking about macro, a lot of people aren't qualified to talk about it, and even those that are often wrong. And so, I think if you look at that, it's funny because you get the retail traders who go like, oh, so and so is wrong and so is wrong. These big, macro heads. And then they're like, but I'm going to come out here and talk about it. And, it's not meant to be rude, but it's meant to be, let's recognize where our deficiencies lie, right? It's really difficult to talk about fundamentals in any way that tends to make a lot of sense unless you're using the chart and backing into it, which is what I do. But if you're just trying to say, well, here's the fundamentals, and so here's what the chart's going to do, I think you kind of miss the whole idea that basically, it's social mood. So what people in general are feeling that leads to what you see on the charts. It's not the other way around. Yeah, you'll have some people that try and trade off the charts, but essentially the charts, what's going on in the charts are because of how everybody in general feels. If everybody generally feels more positive than not, money's going to be invested in businesses, invested in the stock market, and things are going to go up, right? If they're feeling, unsure about things, if you're running a company and you're seeing sales are down and all this blah, 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 and not just you, but your competitors and everything, you're going to start, taking some investment off. You're going to start firing some people. And then that's going to show up, in your markets there. And so I think for traders in general, if they can understand the concept that what happens out here with all of us kind of leads into what we see in the markets, then they stop worrying so much about the news stuff. And they stop getting it wrong all the time, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I always ask people, do you want to be right or do you want to be profitable?
It makes for such an easy filter. I would like to be profitable. I gave up on being right when I got married, so it's fine.
Oh man. Yeah. So, I mean, there we've got, Litecoin and Ethereum and, again, like Ethereum, you've got ETC, the original Ethereum, right? The OG.
God, don't trigger anyone.
But yeah, I mean, this is a nice clean movement up here off this January 2021 low. I mean, you've got 4 here, you got 5 up, you got 2 down. Looks like we've got a 1-2 locally here. So looking for this breakout above that pivot. And if we do, I mean, that should send us up, in wave 5 here. Just locally right here, if this waves 1 and 2 are done right here, I mean, you're looking for wave 3 up here, the R3 pivot right around 00342. The Ethereum Classic against Bitcoin. So, I mean, all we're looking for is this impulsive breakout above this area right here. So as long as we can do that, I think you just look up to new all-time highs.
Ooh, I like that. What about on the?
I think it's a pretty easy trade, honestly.
ETC in so long. Flezick says 3% green candle and everyone is elated, laughing my ass off. I don't think everyone's elated. I think it's just funny, right? Because it was bad CPI news and that meant it was supposed to go down and now it's up. It's just an illustration of the nonsense. And as we both said, if you just literally ignored the fact that there was CPI today, as long as you weren't 100x long trading the 5-minute chart and got stopped out on the initial move, everything was sort of indicating that it could go up,
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Worst case scenario, you could have just waited for a breakout. I tend to most often stay out of the markets when news events happen, just because you always have that knee jerk reaction. And some, it's often really hard to tell how far it's going to go. But Yeah, I mean, it's set to do its thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's how stops get swept, right? You can't be positioned short term on a day when there's a news announcement. So better just zoom out and be in the swing trade that started $3,000 or $4,000 ago.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so then you look across some USDT pairs, right? And everybody was, it was right up here at this top here. Everybody proclaiming the death of, FTM and everything else. And here we are, just a pullback. I mean, all we did was move in sideways on the daily here between the pivot and the R1, hit the R1, rejected, found support at the pivot, and we're rallying back up again. This is, if you trade pivots, anybody actually trades pivots, and not many people seem to do so in crypto Twitter, I would advise you guys to learn to trade them. I did it for a few years, just traded pivots back around right around the GFC, right around 2008, 2009, and learned a lot from it. But when you get this kind of movement, where you just kind of move in sideways here between the pivot and the R1, and it rallies up to the R1 and it gets rejected, what you're looking for is a rejection here at the pivot. And if you can get that, break out higher there, it usually runs to the R4 or R5 pivot.
So, yeah, and the beautiful thing about pivots, for people who don't know, is it's just a mathematical formula. You just pull them up and they're on their chart. There's nothing arbitrary. You don't have to argue about where you drew your line and what trader thinks what is support, and whether you use a wick or whether you use the body or any of those things. You literally just pull them up.
Yeah. I mean, it's based on open, high, low, close of previous candles in the period. And it works. If you're new to trading and you have trouble trying to discern where support and resistance is, I mean, this is what you should be doing. You just go right up here. If you're using TradingView, you go right up here to indicators, type in pivots, and then just hit the traditional pivots and just use those. That's what this is right here. There are different types of pivots, which are calculated different ways, DeMark and Woody and Camarillo and stuff like that. But just use your traditional pivots here. And they give you a great idea of where to look for, movement as price goes. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I just have to ask you, does any of this news, this sort of uptick in regulatory enforcement, the SEC, Paxos with BUSD, and any of this concern you at all? I mean, do you think that it could black swan it and somewhat have sort of an FTX-like event? I mean, the market didn't even move when Genesis declared bankruptcy.
See, and that's the whole thing, man. Again, when we're over here at, get that chart back up here. Down here at the end, right? Right here. Again, after you had the FTX thing, and then it was oh my God, Genesis and Grayscale Trust is going to have to sell all that Bitcoin. That's 700,000-800,000 Bitcoin that come on the market. And I said, well, first of all, it doesn't make sense. They're making 300, 400, 500 million a year off managing it. What they're going to do is sell the business if they have to. They're not going to, piece it out and sell the Bitcoin, right? But even with that, I mean, nothing happened, right? All the fun, it's going down, all this going down. Binance, everything, go down. And maybe they do, but the market's not reacting as you would expect. And so usually when we come to bottoms in markets, this is the thing you get. You get really bad news and you get limited or no response, or limited or no negative response from market participants. And that happens because everybody that was going to sell for mostly has already sold. So they have no real power to stop that upward movement. And this is what we see, at the tops, everybody's euphoric. You have good news, but then you'll have good news and the market won't move as much because everybody's kind of, bought into it or is continually being sold in by them bigger players. And so, market turns down. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things I was talking about there for the last few months running into January. Was all that nonsense going on with Genesis and the Bitcoin trust, and just there's no negative reaction happening in the market at all. I mean, everybody's on crypto Twitter and social media just yakking, right? That's what everybody does. Everybody yaks. Not a lot of people are actually trading, and most of them aren't trading with any real significant size. So it doesn't matter what they say.
It's an interesting point is when you see bad news and the market ceases to react, that's usually can help be a bottom signal if it aligns with what you're seeing in the charts.
Yeah, exactly. There's no supply left to come in. Those that are going to hold are going to hold, pretty much at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're still holding at 22 with how many things have happened in the past months and even just literally in the past few days. I mean, it seems every single day we're getting some sort of ridiculous regulatory action. I mean, this
coming in, right?
BUSD thing is really, really questionable. Paxos is one of the most highly regulated, registered companies that we have in crypto, and they're obviously backed. I mean, this seems just like a sort of surreptitious way for the regulator to attack Binance,
Yeah.
specifically because they're not going after the other Paxos coins at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where it is. And I'll be honest with you, I've got my, my thoughts about CZ and whatever. And, there is in no way was anything, on the up and up really when he kind of outed FTX there. That was purely for personal gain. He didn't care about anybody else. That was him securing his spot at the top there, taking advantage of the situation to deck him out. I mean, it's business, right? But
he's a good trader.
Do it.
That's a good trading move. He's a good trader. I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are you going to do, right? But I think, I mean, seriously, at the top of business, when you're the titans of business, you're going to do things that you shouldn't be doing. It just is what it is. You push the bounds because basically you get a slap on the wrist and you move on. How many times, and you've talked about it, how many times has JP Morgan and et al, all them banks been slapped with multi-million dollar or $100 million fines, right? For all this insider trading or whatever else they've been doing. And all
this is a revenue model for the government. This is a revenue model for the government. The SEC is just cleaning up right now.
So I mean, something could or couldn't happen with Binance. I think at the end of the day, I don't think it really is going to affect a whole lot. I could be wrong, but it seems like the market's ready to rally here and head up. And, the SEC's way they're going about it is kind of weird. So, like again, through, Paxos, BUSD and whatever. So I don't know. I'm not really too concerned about it.
If we do think that the bottom is in or could be in, even if we sort of go revisit, make a higher low, something like that, right? I mean, when you showed that fractal, you can see we did come back down for a pretty significant retracement after that long wick. I guess your chart is right there, but
yeah, there we go.
There's that long wick, on heavy volume just to your left, way down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember. I can't see on your chart when it was, probably 2020, but I think it's March 2020. How long do you think that it takes for us to start? Yeah, exactly. To start seeing new highs, right? I mean, it's one thing to say the bottom's in, but that doesn't mean we won't chop between 20 and 30 for the next year and a half.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what normally happens? So historically, we don't see new all-time highs until after the halving, right?
Yep.
I mean, if that's the case,
that's May 24, right? That's over a year away.
Yeah. Until almost summer of next year.
Yeah. But it would be, I think we'd all feel a lot better if all of a sudden by the end of this year, we were chopping in the 30s and 40s, still way off the highs, but not, talking about prices in the teens anymore.
Well, again, you had this huge movement up here, most recently here with 2019 into that. Now I don't, everybody thinks, oh, now we have to have this. Now this was kind of an anomaly here, this big move down.
Was COVID.
Usually you're going to see the 61.8 pullback, right? Or 50% pullback. So, but I mean, I think you kind of moving up there, you pull back, and I think we're chopping. Yeah, I think we're chopping above 40,000 by the end of the year. I think you have to in order to get out to a new all-time high, thereafter after happening there without waiting too long.
I agree. Anything else I missed? But as we're sort of up against time, Chris has his own stream, by the way, at 11, guys, which was like, I make it when I can still, but it was like religious for me for years. I literally don't think I missed a single one.
I mean, my only other one, I guess, is going to be Sol.
Let's see that.
Just because, again, another good call on that when we were looking at that. Let me kind of pull this up here. So I was on that Wendy O show back on December 30th. I've got these counts off on this right here, but we were way down here at that $9 and some change area. And I'd said, I thought that was a good buy. I said, if we break 15, we're probably looking at 30. And so here we are, we've rallied all the way up to, almost 28 there. Again, like I said, ignore the count here at the moment, but again, idea potentially a 4 right here. And then, rallying up toward $32. And so that would be about right for what I was saying back then. And, and this is again, where everybody was saying Sol's dead, everybody's saying FTM's dead. Everybody's saying, GBTC's dead. Everybody's, and so you get all that in the market and then nothing really happens, right? Usually Tesla dead, right? Tesla's rallied how far? I mean,
those are my favorite. My favorite signal is Tesla's going to zero, right? I mean,
yeah,
we
yeah,
talked about that in
exactly.
the past.
And you know what? Even if it does, buy the friggin' dip. Why are you? Everybody tries to cope, right? Everybody tries to say, well, Bitcoin's rallied, 60%, or, something else has rallied 200, 300%. And they're still arguing, well, but see, it could still go down. Well, it doesn't matter. You missed the chance here. What are you, a trader, or are you an investor? If you're an investor, okay, I can see maybe you're a little concerned, but don't come off saying you're a trader and you're going to, let 50, 100, 200% go by and still say, oh, well, you're just moving the goalpost, right? Oh, it's going to definitely go down here. It's definitely going to go down here. It's definitely going to go down here. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely agree. Everybody follow Chris, TX West Capital on Twitter. What else you got going on? You got the group, you got education, you got a million things. So
yeah, man, we got a new mentor thing we're doing. People can jump in on that. For right now, we actually have a special. This will be the last week. We've been doing it for about a month, a little bit over a month here. Tier 3, that's our flagship part there. We got all the education, 3 live streams a week and all that. And that's normally $200 a month. We've got that. You get 1 month for $19.99. No auto renew, nothing like that. You just sign up, do it, and you don't have to worry about your credit card being charged again after that. If you want to stick around, we'll give you a great discount, but you don't have to. Just come in. I just tell people, even though it's only $19.99, don't come in and then just kind of sit on your rear end. We've got well over 300-400 hours of video education. You have to come in ready to soak it up. Otherwise, why spend $20, right?
Yeah, agree. And did I hear a rumor that one of our favorites over here in the chat and on the show, Fibbo Swanee, is working with you now?
Yeah, he's over there under Texas West Capital as well. So we're going to have some pricing deals for people if they want to jump in on both of it, and kind of get in there. The great thing about Fibbo, man, is his targets are often the same as mine. He goes about it a little bit differently. He's a little bit larger of a swing target, a little bit more of a swing target trader. But again, find a lot of confirmation in those targets between them. So yeah.
Can't ask for more than that, man. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, honor to have you on. Of course, you're welcome anytime.
Appreciate it, man.
Next time we're playing cornhole while we do it, though.
That's right. Got to do it.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Tomorrow I'll be back. Dirk is not going to be here. I have James Butterfield. Coin shares should be a really, really good one. Chris, thank you again, everybody. See you tomorrow. Peace.
Take care, man.
That's dope.